Saturday morning around 7:30. Let's have a look around. Dense patchy fog in the forecast. I can see fog between us and LA offshore to figure out what we want to do today. We're paid up till 8 a.m. this morning or 9 a.m. this morning, and we'll have to get off the hook or sign up for another day. We'll go ahead and crank up the engine. A little throttle on. Put a little heat on the glow plugs. And let's try that one more time. There we go. Exhaust. Pumping water. All right, let's talk briefly about our plan to exit the mooring. Now, look at sail steer. See a little T right there, true wind is 2.5 knots, maybe a little less, a couple knots plus of true wind speed. So TWS is, it's coming from behind us. So what that means is that we don't want to take our stern line off first, because this wind is going to push our stern down. A lot of times I'll throw the stern line first to make sure that that it's clear. If you look at this, see this line is, I didn't have quite enough line to get to the loop, and then this is a sand line which has weights that sinks down to the bottom. So we just need to be careful to let that line drop and sink so that we don't get caught up on our prop. So in preparation for this, usually throw the wand on the boat here. When I tie up, we'll just kind of throw that in the water. I've just got an easy single loop. So we'll throw this first in a sec. Then we'll run back and throw the stern, and we'll be off. I might as well do it now. I don't know what we're waiting for. Bow's off. Looks like the line is sinking. That pole should stick up. Our bow's free, but the wind's coming mostly from straight behind, so we don't have to worry about going sideways or anything like that. Normally, if I can get to the stern, I'll run a line through so I can run it through this hawser, which is the way that I prefer to run it. But we're now clear on the stern, and I can tell it's sunk, so we're free, probably drifting forward. I can't see the buoy, the mooring buoy, so we're gonna back up just a hair, get a little bit of boat speed here, casually glide past that mooring. See how easy this is? Slow like a pro is key here. Don't go any faster than you plan to hit something or get tangled up, and normally you're not going to do too much damage. Zero drama whatsoever. Picking up can be a little bit more stressful, especially if there's wind or current. I did feel a little bit of a current here, but we had such an easy pickup yesterday. I was able to just stop the boat right on top of the pin. Not on top of it, but right next to it. And I didn't have to run because the boat was just settled. All right, go ahead. Give her a little juice here. Here it's still pretty early in the morning. We're just coming up at 8 a.m. You still see the shadows kind of overhanging Emerald Bay there. Things are super chill. We didn't have a lot of wind. If there was more room there, we may have anchored there. But I actually enjoyed going to Howland. It was my first time there. So I've been watching on Facebook the Baja Haha, which is a sailors rally from San Diego down to Cabo. They make a couple of stops. Bahia Tortugas, or Turtle Bay, which is maybe a little more than a third of the way down the peninsula, and then Mag Bay, which is about 2/3 of the way down, and then they stop at Cabo, and they have big parties and stuff like that. They usually get over 100 boats, maybe 150 or so. I don't know the exact count, but you know, I've considered doing the haha. Thought about doing it a couple of years ago, and I decided against it just because I like peaceful, quiet anchorages. I like to kind of enjoy the ambience. So I'm a fairly social person, but this is kind of my time to disconnect and do my own thing. So I love having friends and crew and meeting up with you know, friends and things like that when I'm out sailing. I've met some you know, some of my best friends I've met, you know, through sailing and everything like that. But you know, I love the solo stuff. It's just great to get out here. But I've been following this year's haha, and you know, yesterday, the day before, saw that a boat had hit the rocks on the entrance of Turtle Bay. And if you look at the AIS tracks for this boat, because they had AIS on, it's pretty clear that they were hugging the coast way too closely. And it wasn't just like trying to make a sharp turn at the entrance to Turtle Bay. The tracks had them doing the same thing a little bit further up at Isla Cedros and a couple of other places. And what I thought was interesting about this one is there's a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain that was captaining this sailboat. But I don't want to make too many judgments, but objectively, looking at just the AIS tracks, it's hard to conclude anything other than just really super poor judgment that brought this boat up on the rocks. And fortunately, the captain and the two crew, including the owner, all were able to, I think, get on a dinghy. They were able to call for Mayday, so they all made it out uninjured, unharmed. But the boat sank, so the only thing that's left is about 2 feet of mast coming out. For this boat, it's hugging the coast, and supposedly said there were 20 knots of wind, you know, coming from the east. So let's hug the shore and you know, try and make things a little bit more comfortable. Well, 20 knots is not that much, especially if it's coming from shore and you're reasonably close. There's not like a ton of fetch there. 20 knots on a reach for me, you know, I may be reefed and just have my staysail, but you know, I'm cooking along at 7.5 knots, maybe plus. You know, sipping tea with my little pinky extended. It's not like a super big deal. There's a lot of speculation as to, you know, why in the hell such poor decisions were made, and it's really hard to draw any other conclusion other than just gross incompetence. All right, so I should add one point. I've made my own fair share of mistakes, and if you look right now, like, I'm pretty close here, right, to shore. But you know, a couple things. One, I know these waters really super well, so I've got pretty good local knowledge. Two, everything around Catalina is really well charted. I can tell from my depth sounder, we're at 264 feet, 262. So this is, you know, maybe about as close as I want to get here. And when I get around the west end, I'll cut it, you know, I'll cut it a little wider than that. But, you know, a lot of it is just, and the other thing, it's daylight. We've got super good visibility, you know, and everything else. So yeah, if it was foggy, if I had less visibility, if it was at night, I would be a lot further away from these rocks than where we're at today. Rissos dolphin right over there. The pair of 3 Rissos at least, just right off our port. This is a pretty big pod of Rissos up in front of us. Looks to me like a little raft of sea lions. hanging out. Sorry guys, I mean to disturb you. So one thing I like to do is play this game of what if. Like, if I'm going through a narrow passage or through a channel or near some rocks or something like that, like, you know, what if the engine stalls? What would I do? Well, the first two steps I've got mapped out for any situation. The first one is to shout some expletives. The second one is to crap my pants. But then after that, you know, I try and think through these scenarios in advance. Just one of the things I do to try and keep my mind busy. Maybe I worry too much, but, you know, for example, I know by the charts, by depth sound and everything else, that we don't have any rocks or, you know, anything to worry about with this distance. But I think, like, well, if my engine quit, am I near a lee shore? Or are these rocks going to be on the lee? Well, there's about a 2-knot breeze. There's hardly any breeze coming. So I want to steer wide enough of these rocks so that if my engine stalled, I could very quickly either try and get the sails up to sail away from the island. So I need enough fetch to be able to, you know, have the time and the distance to do that properly. The other thing I think about, in addition to trying to sail out of a situation, if I'm close to something, you know, if I'm in a harbor that's really super crowded, I might not have room for that. So my other plan B at that point might be to drop the hook. But again, I want to have time to drop the hook and get it set before I'm on the rocks. So we'll take this a little wide. By depth, we can cut pretty close into here, but we'll take it a little wide just to make sure that we have plenty of room. And then, you know, as we come around, we're going to take a look at the fog situation too. And if it's super foggy, as it looks like we're headed towards Cat Harbor, we may reevaluate it. It's after 9 and just about 3.5 miles, a little bit more, to Cat Harbor. Ribbon Rock, Ironbound Cove in here. Supposedly this is a spot where you can drop the hook if you get Santa Ana's blowing at you. It's about the only conditions I think you would drop the hook there. But we've got pretty good viz, at least at the island here, which is making me happy. No wind, which is making me unhappy. I was really hoping to do a little bit of sailing. There just really isn't anything to work with today. And I am actually debating on whether I want to stop at Cat Harbor or not. So what are we doing? That is the entrance to Catalina Harbor. We're still on the backside. Yeah, we're headed east. Why are we headed past Cat Harbor east? I don't know. I mean, it's 9:37, still fairly early in the morning. I'm a little bored. Could drop the hook and go for a hike on the island or something, but thought I would do a little broader tour of the island on this trip. If you've watched any of my episodes, you've seen me do this patch to Cat Harbor probably a dozen times or so. Probably haven't seen me go east from Cat Harbor on down. I've filmed episodes doing that before, but been a little while. In fact, I think on this boat, maybe I've mostly gone this way when going around the island. The Dana 24, I did one kind of counterclockwise. So screw it. Let's circumnavigate the island this weekend. We're gonna do a drive-by Little Harbor. I've got zero intentions to anchor at Little Harbor tonight, mostly because two reasons. One, it's super rolly, even though like right now the swells aren't too bad. You'll probably see the rocks at the entrance when we get there. Maybe a little bit of water breaking over those. So it's pretty swelly in there if there's any west swell at all, and I think we've got like a couple feet. The other thing is there's not a lot of swing room. So if there's any other boats in there, it's almost kind of no-go. Unless everybody's, you know, running bow and stern anchor. I don't really want to dig. I've got like this big CQR down under here. I think it's like maybe 60 pounds or something. I've got a little bit of rode buried down in here that I can grab aft, and I could kedge out with the dinghy to drop the stern anchor, but I think what I'm going to do is get my Danforth, which is a lighter anchor, and bring it to the boat at some point, so I've got a little easier, that plus more rode, which I also have in my garage, so I've got a little easier stern anchoring situation. It's a lot of work for a reward of a really crappy night's sleep. A little bit of a distance here, but you get a better view of the entrance to Cat Harbor. So that's Shark Harbor over there. It's a little harbor in front of us. So we're gonna do a real wide circle here. I'm gonna stay out of Little Harbor. But what I want you to pay attention to as we come around is look at the beach and look at the rocks and see them kind of breaking on the shore. And then as we come around, you'll see a couple of rocks sticking out of the water. And I've anchored on the other side of these rocks. They're right over here. Waves break just right over those rocks, and I've anchored on the other side of them. You really need a stern anchor. There's not a ton of room if you anchor back there. You have to watch your depths, and there is quite a bit of kelp.
White-old vessel on a course of 205 true, making 7 knots. This is Coast Guard cutter Halibut, 3 nautical miles.
So it's beautiful anchorage here.
Channel 16 over.
You can see these swells just kind of come straight in from the west. Ish. No bueno. That's Little Harbor drive-by. Cool rock here is called Sentinel Rock. So this beach area just east of Sentinel Rock there is Mills Landing. So I believe this set of rocks is Ben Weston Point, and then China Point is that next set of rocks up there. All right, it's a noon update. Still no wind, so we're still motoring. This is Church Rock, sticking out right here from the island. So Church Rock is about the most southeast point of the island. 205 feet of depth where I'm at. I don't know what these guys are sitting in, but what a horrible place to anchor. These guys are probably just liveaboards or whatever. And there's a couple of other boats up there. So I'm not a big fan of cruise ships. They're just environmental disasters. But this is Norwegian Sun, anchored off of Avalon. And you can see these shuttle boats going back and forth. Norwegian Sun's at anchor. We'll keep going here. And over to port in front of us is Avalon. You can see the casino. And Descanso Beach is just on the other side of the casino. Hamilton Cove is where all those condos are that stack up against the hill. Not protected, super bumpy out there. There's a couple boats out here at anchor too in really deep water. Lots of traffic, just a kind of a trash place to anchor, really. So we're gonna go ahead and continue. That point you see out there on the island is Long Point. Just before that is White Cove. Parasailer. If I'm not mistaken, this is Gallagher Canyon over to port. I believe this is Toyon Bay up here with this other pier. Okay, here's a look at Toyon Bay. So that's Toyon Bay, and then you see this rock sticking out. This little tiny beach is Willow Cove. And next up is going to be White Cove. Anchor's down about 75 feet. I haven't snubbed up the anchor yet because I think I'm a little close to these moorings. We're going to let her settle a little bit and see where we wind up. If I need to, I can pull a little bit in. I think we'll be maybe okay. 5:15 p.m. here at Moonstone Cove in the White Cove complex. Sun's starting to go down a little bit. In the shadows now, at least. We have a little ways till official sunset, but on this side of the island it starts to lose light a little bit earlier since we're in the shadows. You can see where we're on the anchor at. So this is Moonstone. That's White Cove over there, and Hen Rock is over there. Morning just passed 5:30 a.m. here at Moonstone. We're gonna haul the anchor and get out of here. See the sun starting to come up a little bit. Only concern is there's a fog advisory. Adios, Moonstone Cove. Looks like we've got a few miles viz at the moment, but any of the fog's gonna be, looks like, on the coast. Looks like we're gonna be motoring again. We've got 1.7 knots of apparent wind. It is what it is, but that's okay. We'll still take this day on the water. 20 after 6. A few common dolphins just kind of swimming about, pretty spread out. And it's flat, so still no wind. Sunrise just keeps getting better. A lot of visibility. 7 a.m. update. About 12.5 miles to go to Angel's Gate. We're seeing about 5 knots on the nose, so we're not going to worry about putting the sail up. It's been pretty smooth. I'm actually rocking just a hair more, but it's been really super flat. I'm starting to see a little bit of wind on the water here. You can see it's pretty flat. Now, I learned something every time I come out. First thing that I learned this morning is that Cosmic Crisp are the best apples. Not really open for debate. The other thing I noticed when I went out is that, you know, it's November and there's definitely a lot less recreational boating traffic, so I didn't expect to see much, especially when I left early in the morning. Figured I'd beat most of the folks out of the gate heading back towards the island, at least, or from the island. And you know, I've got AIS and my radar, my nav lights, everything turned on because there's a fog advisory right now. And I was looking at my chart plotter, and although you can see these little boat-shaped symbols on the chart right now, couldn't hardly see any earlier. And what I figured out is that my radar interferes with my AIS reception, which is kind of interesting because I was still getting some VHF traffic. So it's the same antenna at the top of the mast. The radar antenna is about halfway up. So had the radar on, didn't see hardly anything on AIS, and I'm like, this can't be right. There's got to be more traffic than this. So I went ahead and stuck the radar in standby, and all these AIS targets started popping up. So it's good to understand and know that, because I think if I wasn't paying close attention, might not have guessed that radar was causing interference with my VHF or AIS reception. What's a little bit of a bummer about that is I think I would prioritize AIS over radar in most situations, especially like coming across the shipping lanes, just because I get a lot more information from AIS, plus hopefully other ships are seeing me. So I start getting in close to shore. If you know, if we're getting in close to buoys and things like that, breakwaters, things that have fairly decent radar signatures, then yeah, I think I'd really like to have my radar going at that point. The problem is the damn radar is down there in the companionway. So when I'm in super close quarters, it doesn't matter either way because I can't really use this radar. So bottom line is, I do plan to upgrade the radar. That's likely going to happen when I do the standing rigging, just because I think we'll take the mast down when we do the standing rigging, and I'll just have a new radar antenna wired up and everything like that at the same time. Then we'll have a modern radar. It'll all be overlaid on top of our chart plotters, and life will be good. It's I think a good reminder, one, to think about not relying too much on electronics, that they're prone to failure or malfunction or have other issues. By the way, my autopilot's not working right now either, which is completely unrelated, but it's been intermittent, so the autopilot's going to get replaced. But think about redundancy, but then there's no substitute for just using your eyes and keeping a manual lookout, and trying to be aware of things that may not seem or look right at the time, but don't have an obviously kind of failure signature to it. So for me, it didn't take too long for me to figure out stuff wasn't popping up on AIS. But see all this black stuff right here? Those are all ships. Those are all AIS signatures. And we've got a couple in the shipping lanes. We got a whale right over to port, running a parallel course with us. I got it pointed the wrong way. We had a whale over to port, running a parallel course with us. Obviously, you didn't want to see a video of me. I got a little excited there because it's close. I am going to go ahead and slow her down because I don't know where this whale's going to pop up, if it's going to pop up. I'm gonna guess humpback. Woo! Look at that. No. Is that what is that, a fin? Holy cow. I need to learn my whales here. Look at that. Seabirds coming through, and then you see all these dolphins, and there's a whale over there too. All right, there's the whale right there, the spout. There's the whale. Straight out. I mean, it's under now. 8 a.m. update. We're about 5.5 miles from Angel's Gate. Noticeably less visibility right now. We don't have a line of sight to land yet. If I can get a mile visibility coming in, I'll be happy with that. If it's more than that, I'll be really happy. 8:22, we're 3 miles from Angel's Gate. I don't see the lighthouse or anything else in front of me. We definitely have less than 3 miles of viz. I would say less than a mile right now, maybe a half mile. Pea soup. About 2 miles from the gate. Nav lights are on. I'm hitting the horn about every minute, letting at least making audible sounds as I'm coming in the fog. AIS is currently clear, but visibility sucks. I would say about 1,000, maybe 1,500 feet visibility just by watching the seabirds. A mile from the gate. Fog is so thick I can taste it. Coming into Angel's Gate, barely have visibility coming in. As soon as we get around Angel's Gate and get clear the entrance here, we'll get out of the channel and get rigged to come in. That'll be a little drama too, coming into the traffic. We've got a power boat coming through a lot faster than he should in a sailboat over to port. See the Cat Express here pretty soon, rolling through the fog. Jesus. See that? There's red to starboard. Yeah, I was looking for green to port. Found the green buoy. We'll go ahead and make the rest of our turn. All right, final approach to the marina. And look at this. Got a little bit of visibility in front of me, actually. Behind us, not so much. So this is nice. Looks like there still could be some stuff in the harbor here in the marina, but at this point I think we're close enough. It's not going to be a big deal. Don't expect any drama coming in. So not bad. We didn't know where we were going to go on Friday. Wound up at a new one of the few coves I haven't actually moored or anchored at Catalina, Howland. That was cool. Did a circumnavigation to Catalina. Had a nice peaceful anchorage at Moonstone and no sailing whatsoever. And this fog was kind of a big bummer, but at least we're in, and it looks like you know, as long as we tie up at this point, visibility is not going to be an issue getting in. But it was a little bit stressful. Just glad thing I'm instrument rated and just didn't have to come in on VFR. I'm also nighttime rated as well, so that helps.